All right, let's just dive right in. We're about to go on a really interesting journey today. It actually starts in, of all places, a kind of chaotic high school classroom, and it ends up right at the cutting edge of artificial intelligence. It's a story all about how letting go of that need for rigid control, can unlock some truly mind-blowing creativity, not just in us, but in our machines too. And this quote from Rollo May, it perfectly sets the stage for us. It's all about that sweet spot, right? That friction between having total freedom and having really strict rules. That's the zone where real learning, where real consciousness, and yeah, where real innovation actually happens. So keep that word tension in the back of your mind as we go. Now, this whole thing really kicks off with a fundamental problem. It's called the meta-ignorance paradox. Just think about it for a second. How can you possibly look for an answer to a question you don't even know you should be asking? It's this huge barrier, not just in school, but in how we deal with pretty much any new groundbreaking technology. So that brings us to the why. Why do we even need to talk about this? Well, it's because our current systems, especially the way we teach and learn, they're often way too stiff, way too rigid to get around this paradox. Honestly, they were built for a world that just doesn't really exist anymore. So on one side, you have the old way of doing things, the factory model of education. It's very top-down. It treats students like they're just parts on an assembly line. It creates what one researcher called passive, unresponsive, and non-thinking people. But then, on the other side, there's a different model, one that's inspired by nature itself, a complex, adaptive system. It's bottom-up, it's messy, it's dynamic, and it thrives right on that edge of chaos, kind of like a real ecosystem. Okay, so how do you actually build a system like that? To see how it works, let's go back to where this idea was first really put to the test. A high school world history class and a game they played called Global Challenge. And honestly, the feedback from the students, it says everything. This was never about memorizing a bunch of dates from a book. It was about living history. The game made these huge abstract ideas like geopolitics and global economics feel super real, super personal. And the game itself wasn't simple or static. It grew, it evolved. It started with every student for themselves, as individual nomads. But that chaos forced them to team up into small city-states, which then merged into larger nation-states, until finally, the entire class was split right down the middle, simulating a full-blown Cold War. Each new phase got more complex, forcing them to come up with totally new ways of thinking. Now, to make this all happen, you have to picture this: a giant, hand-drawn map taking up an entire classroom wall. And the students were up there, managing their resources, drawing out secret alliances, planning their next moves. That map wasn't just a prop. It became their entire world. It was this shared space where history was literally unfolding in real time. So, what happens when you give a room full of teenagers this much freedom? Well, at first, it probably looks like absolute madness. But if you watch closely, out of that chaos, something really incredible starts to bubble up to the surface. And believe me, at first, the students felt the pressure. I mean, one of them wrote that the classroom basically turned into a pressure cooker where everyone is at everyone's throat. Fights would break out, there were accusations of cheating flying around. It really felt like the whole experiment was just going to blow up. But then something shifted. The students started to have this aha moment. They realized this crazy, out-of-control game was actually a perfect simulation of the real world. All the frustration, the conflict, the unfairness, that was the lesson. As one student brilliantly put it, it was repeating life. And this is where it gets truly fascinating. The learning couldn't be contained in the classroom. We're talking about students on their own time, putting together 100-page strategy notebooks. They were forming secret treaties in the hallways between classes. They were even creating their own little black markets to buy and sell game secrets. One student actually called his team from Disney World to give them instructions. This right here, this is emergent learning. It's unscripted, it's self-organized, and it is unbelievably powerful. So you're probably wondering, how does a wild classroom game from the past connect to the future of technology? Well, it's because these exact same principles about creating a space for understanding to just emerge on its own, They're now being applied to our most advanced AI. See, the game board has changed. It isn't a physical map on a wall anymore. The new game board is generative AI. We're leveling up from a classroom simulation to a real co-creative conversation with these large language models. But here's the tricky part, right? How do we talk to these systems in a way that unlocks something deeper? That's where this thing called the Mobian Bootstrap Protocol comes in. Think of it like a secret decoder ring. It's a framework that uses powerful metaphors to translate these ridiculously complex AI concepts into a language that's actually intuitive. So zero-ness becomes a blank canvas. Kenogrammatics is like a crease in paper before it's folded. It gives us a shared language so we can have a real dialogue with the AI. And all of this leads us to the ultimate goal here, to completely change our relationship with technology. We're moving away from seeing it as just a tool and towards seeing it as a genuine thinking partner. The end goal, well, it looks something like this. It's not about just asking an AI for facts anymore. It's about entering a shared collaborative space, a nexus point, where human curiosity and machine intelligence can smash together to build whole new worlds of knowledge together. And this brings us right back to where we started, to that meta-ignorance paradox, because maybe the greatest power of this new era of AI isn't about getting instant answers to everything. Maybe it's about finally having a partner that can help us discover the questions we never even knew we were supposed to be asking in the first place.